Well, hello, welcome to Theology Still Matters. My name is William Hemsworth, and I thank you for joining me on this week's episode. Well, in this week's episode, we'll go back into church history a little bit. We'll look at the early church father known as Tertullian, and one of the methods that he used to defend the divinity of Christ, and by extension, the Trinity. And that is what's called as Stoic Materialism. So some of you be like, Stoic Materialism, what in the world are you talking about here? So this show, it's not going to be too long. I'm trying to keep these shows relatively short in length, but hope to give some good information as well. So the Trinity, the three persons of the Godhead, they're distinct, but the one essence, the same beings, influential in defending and developing doctrine in the early church. During his time, he opposed positions of monarchianism and pagan polytheism. The latter set forth that only one person is God, and because of this, it was actually the Father that was crucified. Kind of like the monarchianism, a more fancy term for modalism. It's really kind of like the precursor to modalism, kind of set the stage for full modalism, if you will. And so this position and Tertullian's retort can be followed very easily in his work titled Against Praxeas. He also opposed pagan polytheism, which held to the view that the incarnation can only be possible if there were more than one God. Tertullian's response was to say that the Son was real, but distinct and not a different God. The fact that Christ existed is a reality, and to this end he used the definition of the word that was found in Stoic philosophy. Tertullian's meaning of reality took for granted the materialist notion found in Stoicism. If it is real, it is material or physical. Since Christ was composed of a material substance, therefore he must exist. This material substance is what composes our souls and God, even though God is invisible. When it comes to the rational principle of the universe, Tertullian kind of feeds off the wisdom of Justin Martyr. He calls the Son the eternal Logos. But he only becomes the Logos when the Father speaks. Tertullian describes this type of relationship as being kind of like a ray of sunshine emanating from the sun. The Father and Son are united in what he called a Stoic crasis, which is kind of like an unconfused union. That's the English terminology for it. It's an interpenetration of spiritual material. The view of Tertullian led him into subordinationism. And that's because Jesus only became the Logos when the Father spoke. Therefore, he's subordinate to him in some way. Subordinationism holds that Christ and the Holy Spirit are subordinate to the Father in nature and being. And of course, it's not true. Okay, they have different roles, but they're all God. One does not answer to the other. There's different functions in there, but they're all one essence. This can be seen in the way that Tertullian uses the metaphor of the sun and the ray. So the sun, in that metaphor, the sun is shooting forth light, and kind of the ray is kind of like a subordinate to the sun. Okay. Though Tertullian defended the deity of Christ, the idea of subordinationism, would lead to further problems, and it would lead to other heresies that outright challenged Christ's divinity. So this idea of subordinationism would eventually lead to Arianism, Nestorianism, other different heresies like that, which we'll cover over the course of this podcast in the next few weeks. So God bless you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Theology Still Matters. I know this topic is brief, but if you're interested in it, just look it up. Tertullian and Stoic Materialism. It's a kind of a very interesting topic because there's Christian theology and Greek philosophy mixed right in there in an attempt to explain the divinity of Christ. And remember, hindsight is 20/20. Put yourself in Tertullian's shoes at the time, where the divinity of Christ is being attacked, and you're looking around you to the popular things around you, trying to help explain the divinity of Christ. Because remember, the canon had not been fully developed yet, fully compiled yet. So sometimes Tertullian gets a bad rap, but we are deeply indebted to his genius in theology, in Christianity as a whole. God bless you. Again, thank you for joining me on this episode of Theology Still Matters. Please visit my website at williamhemsworth.com for other podcasts, other articles. God bless you. We'll catch you next week.